Now that Donald Trump has refused to certify the Iran nuclear deal, the ball is in Congress court. If the legislative branch decides to reimpose sanctions against Iran, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), as the nuclear accord is known, is likely but not definitely dead. All indications are that Congress will try and stop short of imposing new sanctions. Nonetheless, this outcome can hardly be ruled out. Therefore, it's worth considering how Iran might retaliate if sanctions are reimposed. There are a ton of options available to Iran, and it's impossible to know exactly which ones it will choose. Still, there are probably two broad strategies it will consider. In the first instance, Tehran might tailor its actions to punish the United States and certain allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia, while trying to avoid hurting countries in Europe that opposed Trump's decision. Iran might take a less discriminate approach in the hope that the world will ultimately blame the United States for pulling out of the agreement in the first place. How America could go to war with Iran with this in mind? Here's 4 possible ways that Iran might retaliate. 1. Nuclear submarines. It would be logically coherent for Iran is to retaliate to the United States, scuttling the agreement by ramping up its nuclear program, perhaps beyond the levels it achieved before the deal was in place. If it decides on this approach, Tehran will most likely want to do so without overtly declaring it is building nuclear weapons. Why North Korea's Air Force is total junk. Iran could best achieve this objective by announcing that it is building nuclear submarines. This is something that Iranian officials threatened back in 2012, and in December of last year, after the United States passed new non-nuclear sanctions, President Hassan Rouhani ordered his country's scientists to begin planning the design and production of nuclear fuel and reactors for maritime transport. Why doesn't America kill Kim Jong-un? The benefit of this policy is it gives Iran cover to overcome the largest obstacle to building a nuclear weapon: obtaining fissile material. As I recently discussed in relation to South Korea, the nuclear reactors that power submarines typically use uranium enriched to 90% levels, which is what is used in nuclear bombs. Thus, Iran can acquire the fissile material needed for a bomb while maintaining plausible deniability that it is building one. This strategy would not be without risks, however. For starters, it would put immense pressure on Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu to authorize airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. Moreover, this strategy would risk alienating the European powers, as well as Russia and China, which oppose the U.S. violation of the agreement. As alluded to above, it's possible that other countries would blame the United States for Iran's nuclear expansion since it was the one that violated the agreement. It is also worth noting that Iran has pursued a similar strategy in the past. As the international community ramped up sanctions in the years before Iran and the P-51 entered into negotiations, Tehran undertook a nuclear build-up as a way of coercing the United States into abandoning its approach to kill the hostages. If Iran was intent on not alienating the non-US members of the P-51, it might abide by the terms of the nuclear agreement while using a more tailored approach to punish the United States. One such approach would be to use proxy forces to attack U.S. troops currently operating in Iraq, Syria and Afghanistan. Once again, this strategy would not be without precedent following the U.S. invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq in 2001 and 2003 respectively. The Iranian Quds forces waged a vicious covert war against American troops in those countries. According to some estimates, Iran is responsible for the death of some 500 U.S. troops in those two countries. Perhaps the most lethal tactic Tehran used was providing explosively formed penetrators (EFPs) to its proxies in Iraq. Pages